I would say find somebody who you hold in high regard, who has demonstrated the ability to be successful in the arena that you're competing in, and ask that person to become your accountability partner in your journey, and spend as much time and bring that person inside the fold as much as you can. And if you choose the right person, that person is going to drag you to success as long as you show up every day and put in the minimum required effort. If you pick the right person, I think that that's probably the biggest thing you could do.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Fanale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution. Good morning, everybody. Again, we are back. This is episode 398, 393 weeks in a row. We are really excited every week to do this, but today we have Jeff Keani on. So Jeff Keani is he's a deep individual. He's just, he really wants to help people all the time. But a little bit about Jeff is that he's one of the few people in this business that actually lives inside his work, right? So we were talking about something a minute ago, but he work with agents, and results are really decided, with conversations and follow-up in the moments that most people avoid or delay. What Jeff does, what Jeff separates Jeff with everybody else, is he doesn't just push activity, he pushes alignment between who you are, how you show up, how your business is actually run. He's direct, disciplined, and allergic to excuses. No excuses, not for show, but to help agents get clear, focused, and consistent. He coaches clarity. Clarity creates confidence, and the confidence finally creates results. Jeff, welcome to episode 398.
Yeah, buddy, man, it's my pleasure to be here. We were saying, Dave, I was with you a long time ago on episode 214, and credit to you for doing something this long.
214, July 15th, 2022, a long time ago. And I apologize for not having you on back sooner. But anyway, here we are, right? So, one of the things about this broadcast is I get to do this every week. And I just decided one day that I could show up every week. And I have. I missed one Friday out of 393, but I did it the next day. So it's been 393 weeks in a row. And here we are. So the question, Jeff, is what does TGIF stand for?
TGIF, what does it stand for? Well, I'm going to try to avoid making the mistake of going with what we think it all stands for.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which would be, thank God it's Friday. Right. But, I bet you got something better for us in store than that. So you tell me. I'm going to say I don't know.
Come on, man. It's right in front of you. Thank God it's Fanale.
Thank God it's Fanale. Oh, my goodness. That's right. That's right. It's right in front of me. This is not the finale. Is there going to be a finale? Are you stopping this ever?
Truth be told, I'm going for 10 years. That is my goal. We are at 7.5 now. So we got 2.5 years to go.
How many episodes would that be? Do you know that?
What's that?
Do you know how many episodes that would end you at?
10 episodes. 10 years of episodes would be, if there's 52 a year, that would be 520, I guess, right? So I guess show 520 would be my last one.
Then we'll see what happens. Listen, hey,
I like what happens, right? So, funny you bring that up is that because, a lot of people have goals. And this time of year, this is being recorded and being broadcast live on January 9th, 2026. And a lot of people start with goal setting and they get going with everything. And there's still people goal setting and business planning today. I said in a call earlier today with some of my Align agents that, if you're goal setting and planning business today, it's okay. You can do it anytime, but you're kind of behind, right? I start resetting my schedule every week, but then in August and September, I'm really looking at what worked and what didn't work and going forward from there. And to me, to get into one thing about, being clear on what I want to accomplish, right? A few weeks ago, we had Via Williams on and we talked a lot about clarity, right? And I mentioned clarity in my intro. And I want to ask you, man, I mean, look, you started not in real estate in your business and your adult business life, and you came through and you needed to actually know what you wanted to do. And it kind of took you a while, like it does for most of us, right? There's not a lot of people that get out of high school knowing they're going to be in real estate. My guest last week did know that, right? But the point is that it takes a while. So tell me your journey and your story and how you were able to get clear on what you do today. Because one of the things I see about you, man, I don't think you ever work. And what I mean by that is you love what you do, so it's not really work. So talk to me a little bit about you and how you got there.
Yeah, well, going back, it's interesting. So clarity, right? And so I'm just thinking now, I grew up in Salinas, California, which is where 80% of the lettuce in the United States comes from. John Steinbeck, if you're familiar with the author who wrote Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men, etc., it was set in that Salinas Valley backdrop, okay? And so that gives you where I was at. I had, let's say, a colorful childhood and, was out on my own at about 16 and a half. And, from that point, doing the thing, right? Paying rent and learning how to do laundry and, dishes and everything else. But not also, living a very healthy lifestyle, let's say. As I mentioned, it was
Right.
cool. I'll leave that to your imagination. But, I do remember always having this sense of being destined for more, as crazy as that may sound. And, you may think that sounds, some sort of way, but, I always felt that there was more. And so I vividly remember at one point, and this was a pivotal moment in my life. There are several, we all have these, probably at least 3 really pivotal moments in your life that had you made a different decision in that moment, things could have gone a completely different way, good or bad. And some of my pivotal decisions, I might have more than 3 because there might just be 3 bad ones. But there was a moment when I was 19 and, was in my apartment. I had a roommate and I came home at lunch. I worked at this place called Dick Bruin's, which is kind of a fancy men's haberdashery store. At this point in life, I'd managed to at least maintain a job for over a year, and I enjoyed what I did. I got really into menswear and all of that, and I had to dress up every day, wear a suit and tie every day. Now, when I came home, I'm out of that suit and tie, living a, little hoodlum life or whatever, doing bad things, let's just say. But I came home at lunch and I walked in and all these idiots are sitting on my couch, okay, with a big bong in front of them. I'll just be real. And as I sat down and partook in that, I did look around and they were giving me crap about wearing a suit and tie. And, I got to go back to work in an hour. And I'm sitting here just kind of, thinking, dude, these idiots, like they're making fun of me wearing the suit and tie. Like, I don't know what they're doing. Like, I'm sitting here being an idiot too, but I know that this is temporary. This is temporary. I'm trying to get myself out of this environment. Y'all are good with it. Y'all are like, you look around and go, I'm cool with this forever. That was not me. And it wasn't long after that I decided to take one box of everything that I could manage to get in it, mainly clothes. And I hopped on a train and went from California to Texas. And I had some extended family that I'd been, some family, not necessarily extended only by my own part, but I'd alienated myself for a number of years from any family. I hadn't talked to my mom, my grandparents. Those were the key family members in my life, and hadn't talked to them in years. And so they'd already been in Texas for a little while. At one point, they drugged me to Texas. And as a California boy, I said, and I went back to California after them kicking me out. My mom kicked me out at one point. So I went back to California on a bus and spent years out there, started over many, many times. Okay. This is before I'm even 20 something. And at that moment, when I looked around and was wise enough to realize I'm not meant for, I got to get out of this environment. It's going to be tough for me to I'm surrounded. Everybody I know, like, I'm going to have to do something drastic to change this. I'm going to get on that train. I'm going to go back and mend these bridges and just start over there. I had clarity, Dave, that I wanted something more. And so there are other times like that, but that moment, man, and having the clarity that I wanted something more, despite what your situation might be at the moment, that's where it started.
But okay, you had clarity that you wanted something more, but how did that push you to actually do it? I mean, look, clarity to me and clarity is really important. I mean, I know what I want to do. I know what I want to have. I mean, we were talking about, 10 years for the broadcast, right? I know that that's something I want to do. And I never, up until a few months ago, I never thought about, how long I would go. Then I started thinking about, look, I'm not getting any younger, probably there are more days behind me than in front of me. Right. And so I needed to start thinking about a plan. Knowing what I want to do is one thing, but being able to actually discipline myself to do it is another. So my question really has everything to do with the difference between clarity and discipline, because I believe discipline's a skill. I believe clarity is necessary for that discipline. But how do they both work together? And how do you go from being clear on what you want to getting there?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's probably a little bit different for everybody, but I bet you at the core, there's this one constant, and that is that as much as anything, you get really clear on what you don't want. That's, I think, what really the driving for. We can get clear on what we want, but when you get really clear about what you don't want, you start acting differently. Now, let me ask you, you just mentioned you want to get to 10 years. Now, what would be a more of a driving force? You getting to 10 years, or everybody that has heard that see you not get to 10 years? What if everybody saw you fail? That, for some people, I don't want people to see me fail. That's the driving force to get them to take action more than I want to hit 10 years. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let's talk about that. So I've done this broadcast on with my laptop on a dumpster. I've done it in Paris, in Italy. I'm not going to miss this. And everybody that knows me, like people I work with and, other people throughout the country, they know that I love doing this, and it's something that I'm not going to stop doing. So for me, this is the easiest part of my life of what I choose to do. You know what? I mean, I've got to so there's some days, I mean, just like getting up and working out. And this is what I was talking about, the discipline, right? For me, this is easy. This is so easy. This is like going to sleep and waking up. Sleep is another problem, but that's beside the point, right? This is easy for me. There's other things I want to accomplish that are not easy for me. When we talk about discipline, there's a discipline of I'm up every morning between 4:30 and 4:45. Used to be 4 or earlier, but I decided I need that extra time for sleep, right? I can do that. I woke up this morning, I was tired. I didn't want to get up. Yesterday, same thing. Yesterday, I overslept by 10 minutes. I didn't want to get up, but I know I have to do it in order to accomplish what I want to accomplish, which is working out physically, working out mentally, right? I know I have to do that for the betterment and how I'm going to feel for the day. How come I and most people don't feel that to accomplish what they need during the day for their work? They just forget what they had to do in the morning. This is the disconnect. And if we know this, if we can get to this answer, we can help a lot more people.
Yeah, it's for me, I'll just speak from my personal experience even. So last year, for instance, I took the year off from drinking. So I said, I'm not drinking any alcohol at all in 2025. And so I didn't, still haven't, actually, not sure when I will. But that was a decision and a discipline driven by who I think I need to become in order to achieve the things that I want to achieve in the time that I got left. For me, there's this principle of BMBS. BMBS is be my best self. And that is my driving purpose, is to be my best self. Now, that's a never-ending road. I wake up every day with the opportunity to play that game. And in large part for me, is I wasted a lot of time. I'm trying to make up for lost time. As I mentioned, I didn't really become an adult probably until my 30s, okay? And so I wasted a ton of time in life And going back to the drinking, part of that was when you look at how much time you have left. I'm 47. Let's just say I managed to, make it to, I don't know, 80. Well, damn, that's only 33 years. Okay. That is only 33 years. Oh my. Now, if you want to get scared, think about that. Okay. That's not much time. And what if like 10 of those years are 70 to 80 when there's who knows what condition you'll be in. So if let's say between now and 70, there's a short amount of time. So when I look at, because I've wasted time, now hopefully you've made it more, down that path to what you want ultimately. If you're late in starting it like me, I'm looking at it going, I got time to make up, and these are the things I want to achieve. And based on the time I have left, there are things that I'm going to have to stop doing in order to do these things. Now, if these things aren't really important to me and they're the wants of society and they're just things that I say that I want because that's what we're supposed to say that we want, then that's probably not going to drive you to take action. But, for me, I want people to look at me as a good example. I want people to believe that at some point in my life, I got to a stage where I was a person that was loyal, person of great character, person who could be, relied on. Okay. These are things that I want to be perceived as. There are business things that I want to achieve that require me to be 100% available every single day. And if I'm drinking and there's just one day a week even where I'm not quite 100%, then I don't know what day that might be and what might be in front of me that day to do. But those days when you're 93%, how much does it cost you? I don't know. And how many, if even if it's once a week, isn't that 52 days in a year? And if you've been living your life for 20 or 30 years with just one day a week, I'm not quite 100%. Dude, that's 520 some days. That's a whole year of your life. And so for me, just for me, okay, my 100,000 push-ups I'm doing this year allows me to become the absolute best version of myself. All that requires discipline, everything, the discipline, the no drink. But for me, I really want to become the best version of myself. I say this stuff publicly because I'm embarrassed to not hit it. Okay. That's my game I play with myself. Joe DeSena in the book Spartan Rules says 3 rules to accountability. Number 1, make it public. Tell the people that you love most. Tell the people that you would be most embarrassed to see that you did not give it the full effort. That means your wife, your kids, the people that are closest to you. Tell them, tell everybody. That's the best accountability for me, because I will not show up for myself the way that I will show up if all the eyes of Rome were upon me. If all the eyes of Rome were upon me, you watch how I show up. I got 3,000 plus push-ups in 9 days. Last year, I set a goal to do 3,000 push-ups in a month, and I made it on day 30. I just did 3,000 push-ups in 9 days. So, what drives me to take action is the vision and the identity that I have for myself. That requires clarity. I have to think about, who do I want to be? What do I have to do, and who do I have to become in order to get there?
So this is really a good thing. It's really important for a lot of people to look at, because there's so much of a disconnect between motivation and action, right? And we look at, you have it on the screen, 100K Up Club. And as you came, I knew what you were doing because I've seen what you talked about. And I know some of the guys involved in what you're doing with the 100,000 push-ups. And as soon as I asked you what's a 100K Up Club, I said, I know what it is, right? And I said, dude, I would love to do that, but I don't know, man. And I said, what about 10,000? And that's only like, what we say, it's 29 push-ups a day, 30 push-ups a day. Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to commit to once I get off this. And so this is really important to you as it is important to me, as far as discipline and growing business and stuff. Here's the thing. Everybody has a process by which they live. Everybody has a motivational factor that will get them growing, that will get them going, that'll get them off their ass. And whether it's clarity or discipline or whatever it is, there's something that will motivate them. But Jeff, what about the people that know they have to make the calls? Let's get back into real estate for a second. They know that the way they're going to do business is to have conversations, whether it's agent attraction, whether it's buyers, sellers, investors, whatever it is. They know they have to do those conversations, and they know how to do it, and they're good at it, but they just won't freaking do it. What's the key there? Is there a switch? Now, you said the best person, think about your kids, your spouse, whoever it is. Is that the switch that would work, or is there another switch, even though when they don't do it, when they know they're going to do it?
Well, it's a good question. I've spent years making calls, so I can speak intimately about the challenges about that. Before real estate, I was in the financial services world. If you ever saw Boiler Room or Wall Street or Glengarry Glen Ross, those were our Bibles. And we lived in a 500 call a day world, okay, Boiler Room style, calling investors all over the country. And I am not that person naturally. It was a struggle, okay, making cold calls, and which is, by the way, if you're calling expireds and for sale by owners, you should be happy to have that opportunity. People that actually had their home on the market, people are actually looking to sell their home. What more could you ask for? Call those, okay? It's worth $10,000, $20,000. But I know it's not easy. For me, I would look at that phone, and the longer that I would think about making calls, the harder it became to make calls. Okay, now I lived in a world where it was 100% commission, much like you. And so at a certain point, if I can't pay the rent, that'll usually light a fire under your ass to do something. Okay, but you don't want to wait till you get to the point where you're having to save everything and then you start making calls, because at that point it's, you have a lot of stress and it's tough to be successful. But there is some sort of financial motivation, hopefully, that exists that allows you to get up and do the minimum required effort. But going back to the wife and your friends or coworker, I don't know. If I said to Josie, I'm going to make 100 calls every day, and at the end of each day, I want you to ask me at the end of each day, did I make my 100 calls, honey? Will you commit to asking me at the end of every day if I made my 100 calls? Dude, I would have my 100 calls made if she was going to ask me every day. Okay, now that's just for me. If you don't love yourself enough to show up and be consistent with the things that you commit to do, then we need to love ourselves a little bit more. But for me, if I tell somebody, and especially if I put in place the mechanisms to have outside accountability impressed upon me, that works. We are rarely strong enough to push ourselves off a cliff. Okay, we can get right up there to the edge, but sometimes it takes somebody else to push us because we just aren't able to do it. We think we're protecting ourselves or whatever the reason. And so find a way to take and leverage other people to get some accountability applied on you, because again, you might not honor that time slot in your calendar if it's just you looking over your shoulder. You'll give yourself an out. You'll pat yourself on the back and say, tomorrow. Your wife ain't. Dave ain't. Okay? Your coworker ain't. And if you're by yourself, which is tough, in that world that I lived in, we had a group full of people. And if you were having a down day, the next guy who's next to you would kind of help bring you up, and you could hear everybody making calls, and there's a certain amount of energy. And so if there's an opportunity for you to get around somebody, that is the best thing that you could do. If you're trying to make calls, get around somebody else who's making the calls, even if you have to hop on Zoom. Hey man, you go on mute, I go on mute. Let's go. Let's make the calls. When you get one, you come back, let me know how it went. Do something, gamify it, because again, you'll show up to play the game. You'll show up to play the game.
So people will say, I'm glad I looked at my screen because it says my computer's about to die. So I'm going to ask the question as I put my wire on, which I meant to do before. So there's activity is one thing. Action is one thing. We're talking about making calls, and there's a lot of people that make the calls, but they don't get anywhere with the call. So is the call the actual metric that works, or is it what's behind the call? Because a lot of people say, well, I'm making the calls and I didn't get any appointments. What, I mean, what else am I supposed to do? I'm doing it and it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I'm going to not talk about what everybody else would tell you. And that is, I'm going to start asking, how many calls did you make? And, well, dude, you ain't even made enough calls yet. Let's look at the benchmark conversions and everything. You're bitching about not having any appointments. You made 50 calls, and based on the math, you'd have to make 500 to probably get enough contacts to actually get an appointment. It's taking you a month to make 500 calls, bro. We could do that in a day and have an appointment today. Let's assume I didn't say all that. Okay. What I think is important, like for me, I wanted to be a master of my craft. It's anything I do. I was a professional skater. I hacky sacked for years. Anything that I choose to do, I'm going to go in 120% and probably be a little bit obsessive. Okay, 100,000 push-ups, and I'm ahead of pace right now. Like if I'm in, I am in. Let's go. Just like Dave, 398 in a row. So now that's not something that came with the job description. That's not something that came in the rule. That's just me. I picked something that hopefully, like you have some interest and you have some passion about it. And if that's the case, it should not be hard for you to go all in. If it's hard for you to go all in, then, reevaluate where you're at or do something. Okay. But for me, I wanted to be a master of my craft. What that looked like is, again, Boiler Room, Wall Street, Glengarry, Glen Ross. If you watch those movies, you're probably exhibiting the behavior of somebody who's going to be successful because you're into it. You're in learning what you like. I could recite all the lines from the movie. This is the kid. Shows up 59 days in a row. Ought to be a picture of you in the dictionary next to persistence, kid. Okay, that's Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. I've seen it a million times. Get your ass up out of that Italian chair. We expect to treat our coworkers with a little bit of respect around here. Okay, now who here has a Series 7? Good, get out of here. We're not looking to train brokers here. We're looking to get new ones, something along those lines. Okay, but how many times have I seen those? I've watched them with our coworkers. We watch them together over drinks. We say the lines back and forth. It's an inside joke. It's part of the culture. Okay, that helps you. I'm bought in. I'm passionate. Okay, and now I would also be calling Scott Riggs at 7:30 in the morning, going, "Hey man, what do you think about this rebuttal when an investor says this? Hey, what do you think about this angle? Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this?" Constantly. Nobody's telling me to do that. Nobody's saying, "Hey," it's just if you really want to be a master of your craft. I'm not even talking about. Of course, I want to close deals and make money. But I also just want to be really, really good at whatever it is I choose to do. And so for me, that drove me in anything to do what was necessary to get to a certain skill level. So, when you talk about making the calls, yeah, just making the calls without a focus on improving your skill set is not going to work. Okay. You're going to burn out. You're not going to have enough recent success that you can connect to that probably allows you to drive forward. What you need to do is you need to take it serious and become a master of your craft. Patrick Mahomes, who's playing right now, any quarterback who's still playing in the playoffs, okay, they show up on practice days. Now, they have all the excuse they're pros. Are you a pro? Why are you not showing up for practice? Like, they're pros and they still show up for practice. I did practice every single day. Every morning at 8 a.m., you'd walk into a conference room with 20-some brokers, and your name would be called out. All right, go back to your office and call in. You'd get up, you'd go back to your office, you'd call into the conference room on one of those big speakerphone deals, and you'd have to pitch the whole table of a bunch of young idiots, probably hungover from the night before, chomping at the bit to pick you apart, okay? And you had to be able to do those jump-offs, as we called them. And when you put in that kind of focus on mastering your craft, you match it with the effort. If you match that then with the effort, then you really start doing good stuff.
Man, you talked about the movies, Glengarry, Glen Ross, Wall Street, etc. And those are characters, right? Those are characters. And it has a lot to do with what you have to do. I mean, can that character pattern be Can that be the switch? Is it almost like being a character in that movie? Like you said, oh, we lost you, Jeff. You coming back, Jeff? So Jeff's going to come back. So we're going to talk about this character shift when he comes back. We're going to talk more about how it all comes together. And here he is. We're bringing him back.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. All right.
Here we are.
All right, man. So we're talking about a character shift. That's what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah.
we have our feelings, our desires, and everything else. We have our motivation, and we're clear on what we want, and we're building discipline. But then there's a character shift that sometimes we have to make. And you talked about it. One of the things that I'm really grateful for with the team that I'm with, which is Align, as you see behind me, is that we communicate on a regular basis about what we're doing, how we're doing it. How do you think I should handle this? Whether it's an offer, a listing, what are the issues with this before you go in? And one of the things we've decided that we're going to do is that we're going to talk to each other before we talk to the client so that we have a collaborative effect for these people. And it's one thing that I've never experienced before, and it allows me to get into the proper character when I need to be really clear on what I'm talking about. Okay. So saying all that, there's a lot of people out there who have to get on the phone one way or the other. And when they get on as themselves, they suck or they can't convert. There's one person who's been on his broadcast a couple of times who I use because he's the first one that really talked to me about this, was an alter ego, and that was Haas Pratt, right? Haas has his own alter ego, which he goes on. Do we need an alter ego, or we just need that determination fact that nothing's going to stop us?
I think the alter ego works. Bottom line. I mean, I used to do something similar. I had or you do, like Tony Robbins talks about, you have certain physical actions that you can take that produce a certain shift in your mindset. Okay. So whether it's let's go, that could immediately change your mindset and get into a certain mode. For me, every day when I drove to work, I would say these Brian Tracy affirmations. Today, I will win. You want to know why I'll win? Because I have faith, courage, and enthusiasm. That's why. Today, I will win. You want to know why I'll win? Because I have faith, courage, and enthusiasm. That's why. Today, I will win. You want to know why? Because I have faith, courage, and enthusiasm. That's why. I would say that 3 times. And sometimes you're not having a good day and you don't quite say it with the conviction. You say it again. You say it like you mean it. Little things like that. Watching videos. I go back still to this day and watch that monologue on YouTube of Ben Affleck in Boiler Room, and good luck watching that and not being fired up to do something. It only lasts for a little bit of time. But just like when you went into your office to collaborate with the strategy for this seller, that also is leveraging people to help you take the action. I think at the core of all of this is it is really tough to do everything on your own. And probably the best way to help you take action, whether it's calling or otherwise, is to leverage people in any way you can. We just talked about some, but leverage people. When I go for runs, I run a lot too. I did a 50-mile race at the end of last year. I ran 1,000 miles in 2024, and most of the time did not want to go for a run. Okay. Most of the time did not want to go for a run, but everybody was expecting me to run and to hit this goal because I'm making it public all the time. So the fact that, again, all the eyes of Rome are upon me, then I get up and I get my shoes on and I bitch the whole time, but I'm out the door, moving my feet, still griping, still wanting to turn around. But you know what? As you get moving, things get easier. The hardest call of the day is call number 1. Best thing you can do is stop thinking, pick up the phone, dial the number, take the action. Okay. Get out of your head, operate, execute. When somebody answers as best you can, that's a win, whether they say yes or no. Do it again. Get 30 calls in, and I promise you, you will start to feel like a winner, and it's so easy. But if you can't pick up that phone and make that first phone call, it's tough. Leverage somebody. Hey, man, I got a calling session at 9 a.m. Will you do me a favor? Hit me up at 9 a.m. and tell me to make that damn call, because if I see that message from you, Dave, I'll probably do it. Okay. I'm just not good at getting myself up and taking action.
So a lot of this comes from where you want to be, where you want to go, where you want to be tomorrow. A lot of people, and I started this with talking about business planning and personal accomplishment, right? So a lot of people are looking at, okay, so what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish this year? And when I start talking to agents, I say, well, tell me about your business, right? So how are the last 12 months? That's how I usually start it with that. And then I say, well, what do you want to do the next 12 months? And who's going to help you get there? And how are you going to do that? And one of the questions I need to ask from now on is, okay, so what do you want to accomplish today? Right. And I think with making that one call, those 30 calls, or those 50 calls, or whatever it is, we have to talk about getting there today. And it's all based on the plans that we have for ourselves. Now, you talked about, and I talked about time, right? I said, I got more time behind me than I have in front of me. You kind of alluded to the same thing, right? So you said, when you said 47 and you think you're going to get to 80, you kind of scared the shit out of me because I'm a bit older than you, right? So what I'm trying to say is, I think it's really important for us to do what we do tomorrow. We talked the other day about your own personal plan and how you set it up. And we talked about that 1-page personal plan. Talk to me about how that helps you and how it evolves for you and your business and your life.
Yeah, so the 1-page personal plan is something that I took from a book called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. And I recently went through it, have been through it before, but this year really took a intentional and patient approach to going through it. Okay. And I've still got work to do on my 1-page personal plan. But, Dave talked about the importance in business planning, but why are you in business? Okay. Hopefully it's not just to make money. It's to do something with all of that you get from doing business, whether that's provide for your family, create experiences, leave something behind, donate to worthy causes, whatever it is. Simon Sinek would say, identify your just cause. Your just cause is what some of us would call our purpose, our vision, etc. Rule number 1 in his 5 rules for testing whether or not your just cause is worthy is number 1, it should ultimately be big, bold, and unachievable. Okay, big, bold, and unachievable. So start thinking about that. You might be thinking too small. Let's have a just cause that's ultimately big, bold, and unachievable. Now, getting to the 1-page personal plan, for me, I just went through the portion where it's focused on what you want your life to look like 10 to 25 years from now. Okay, now I'm not talking about how many transactions and all of that. I'm talking about something much bigger. What do you want your life to look like 10 to 25 years from now? Now, next, think about who the people are that are in your life 10 to 25 years from now. So for me, I go down the list, okay, and I'm starting naming all those people. Now, there are some people that I don't even have in my life. I know those people. They're just not in my life maybe as much as I want to be. And then there are people that play roles that don't exist right now in my life, but I need that kind of role and somebody to have that role in my life because I'm thinking about 10 to 25 years from now. Now, when I first did this, and it's taken me a long time, again, I'm patient going through this process. It's not something you shortcut. You're designing your life because with this plan, I can get to what can I do every day? What's an action I can do every day that will honor this plan? Okay. And now I have 19 people in my inner circle on my plan and what I had to do with each one of those. And there's more. There's people that are outside of the inner circle that are on that plan. But it starts with relationships. There are 4 columns. It's relationships, achievements, wealth, and rituals. Imagine if you had clarity on relationships, achievements, wealth, and rituals. For me, relationships is where I started. My inner circle has 19 people. With each of those, I had to ask, what do I want this relationship to feel like 10 to 25 years from now? What do I want it to feel like? And then also, what do I want the relationship to look like? So externally, like, what do we do when we hang out and spend time together? Like, where do we live in relation to each other? What does it look like on an external basis? What does it feel like? And then the third question was, what's my ideal role in that person's life 10 to 20 years from now? I had to go through that with 19 people and not just say it's great. I mean, I really took the time to think about it. Now, what it revealed is, again, it highlights how much time you have left. You know, you start thinking, well, 10 to 25 years from now, what do I want my life to be like? Remember, I'm not going to be who I am today. I'm going to be 10 or 25 years older. And the people that I'm putting on my list, they're going to be 10 to 25 years older. Think about your family members that are already older than you. When we get to that question of what's the ideal role that you play in that person's life, 10 to 25 years, you start to get really clear. Now, for me, I've already seen little things where I'm having conversations and bringing people in closer that are on my one-page personal plan and their key relationships that I have in the next 10 to 25 years. And just by having that out of my head and on paper and something that is subconsciously unconscious, just by having that, you start to do little things every day. You may not even realize that, man, I took a step closer to that person. Now 10 to 25 years from now, with enough of those little actions every day, that life that I put on paper today is a reality.
So, man, on this broadcast, something I've done for 398 episodes is I consider myself extremely selfish. What I mean by that is that I want to ask questions pertaining to what I need and what I have issues with and what I want to solve, so that I can help other people that have the same problems, because I know I'm not the only one out there. I know there's people out there that share the same issues, feelings, problems, faults, etc. So I'm going to talk to you about two things, right, that go along with the personal plan and those 19 people. The first question, the first point is, in my life and in a lot of people's lives, there are on that list. I'm going to ask you, are there any shoulds on that list? And what I mean by that is people that you should have a relationship with, that you feel maybe a little guilty that you don't have that relationship. I'm getting really personal, and I'm really getting down to what life and people look at, and they feel guilty about not talking to people or talking to people. Are there any shoulds on your list of 19 people?
Yeah, 100%. So, I'll say there are people that are on my list that don't know that they're on my list that I'm going to be hitting up, and they're going to be like, why is Jeff all of a sudden? Because you're on my list. And what I've recognized is you're a person who I see value in, and I want to be closer to you. I want you to be a closer influence in my life. You may not even know it, but I want you in my inner circle, and I might start showing up. And so there are people that, you might know you wanted to have something more with, and you just haven't done it. I have those people on my list. There are also people on my list who I do not communicate with right now at all that I should be. I have a godson who's on that list who I don't play the role that I probably should. His mother's on my list. That's not even necessarily my friend. That's Josie's relationship. But I need Janelle on my list as an important inner circle relationship, because that relationship's important to Josie. It's also the mother of Tristan who's on my list, because Tristan is her son who I'm a godfather to. And so there's that. I have a martial arts trainer, a doctor, a spiritual leader on the list. Those people don't exist right now. I don't currently train in martial arts in an organized way where I have a martial arts instructor. I haven't been to the doctor. Okay. It's on Project 2026 to get my blood work and everything. I haven't been to the doctor in 30 years. I don't have a general practitioner. Okay. That's on my inner circle list. I don't have that person. A spiritual leader. I don't have a dedicated spiritual leader that I go to for it. But I'm thinking that in the next 10 to 25 years, as I become my best self, part of that includes, spiritual aspect. And I'm probably going to need somebody, if I'm making that commitment to grow more spiritually, probably need to have somebody in that role. So even though I don't know who that is, let's put that person on there too.
Okay. One last point on the shoulds question, right? Because I struggle with stuff myself, and I know a lot of other people do, and because the way you answered that question is, you would think it's atypical, but it actually is typical, because as I said, it's like nobody's alone in this world. There's so many people that have the same issues, but they won't talk about them. And, it has to do with business as well. So do you ever think about some of those shoulds and say, well, I don't want to?
Yeah, there's as much. The one-page personal plan is also about people and things that you want to stop doing. And so it's important. I think there's a whole philosophy behind start saying no more, no to people that you're spending time with that aren't in alignment. Okay. Hopefully this might have helped you think about some ways, or at least reveal how important it is to get clear. When you have that clarity, you can see who's in alignment with that clarity and who isn't. And you've got to start making decisions to remove things that aren't in alignment. So definitely there are people, that end up on your one-page personal plan, maybe not as I need to bring this person closer, but as maybe I need to get farther away from this person, this thing, this habit.
Yeah. So, we've come full circle to clarity on people, on things in that plan. One other thing I want to get into, having to do with clarity and everything else. Look, I look at myself, and I've had a lot of thoughts lately as I get older. As we get older, we'll look at others that are older than us and say, is that what I'm going to be? Am I going to be like that person? And I will tell you that as I get older, I'm starting to think, am I that guy? Am I that guy that or is this just how I've always been? And I can't understand other, let's use the word generations, that don't understand me. And, one of the things I've tried to stop doing was, well, when I was a kid, or 30 years ago, I've tried to stop doing that and start using questions instead of everything else. And that's where I'm trying to base my life on today, in questions, but I still feel that. So am I what I am? And this is for me and others out there. Am I what I am today, years ago? Like, am I the person I was today? I say that it doesn't make sense, but think about it. Am I the person that I was 20 years ago? Am I that person today? Or am I something else because I'm older and have more experience? And what's the clarity I have on my own and of my own stuff? Like, we talk about time, we talk about where everything goes, and maybe I've got different aspirations that everybody else does. I tell people my age, they say, oh, you don't look that old. I don't know if they're saying that out of being kind or whatever. But the point is, Jeff, am I what I am because of what I want to be or who I was? And if I was to do that personal plan, is there a way that one should strive to make that plan to who they want to be? I think I just gave you a lot of word salad there, but
I get it. I appreciate that. Let's throw some dressing on that word salad. So I think it's everybody again has probably what works best for them. But it's a good question, and so I want to think about it before.
So, are you who you were? Are you who you are today? The person who you were 10 years ago?
Yeah, and so I'm torn. I think what's most important is what your vision of yourself is. Okay, today. Now, your vision of yourself today. For some of us, the vision of ourselves today is highly influenced by the past. Okay. Now I was in the financial services business for a long time. I made a ton of money in that business. And at one point I was going through a transition and had lost everything again. Okay. And my vision of myself was the past version of myself. And I wasn't focused in that moment. I was more caught up in this vision of a past version of myself than I was on what I needed or who I wanted the next version to be. Right. And so I think there's two things I'm going to say. I'll let you go, but it would be the importance on having the vision of yourself. And then second, I think it's what you're doing today, Dave. It's what we do today. It's the vision that we have for ourselves and what we are doing today. That's really what matters most.
I like that a lot, because it's like, for me, I look at, I mean, let's face it, man. I firmly believe that older people, they say that they have no filter, and I don't believe it's filter. I say that they lost their patience. And basically what I mean by that is, look, I've been telling people how to do this thing so many years that I'm sick and tired of beating around the bush. So just do it the way I tell you to do it, or whatever it is. And I think that has a lot to do with patience. I don't think it has anything to do with no filters. But anyway, that's beside the point. We've gone through a lot of stuff today, and I think we talked a lot about clarity and discipline and stuff. And I think that was really a good point to go with. If you were, Jeff, two things, and then actually three more things. One is this question: if you were someone trying to accomplish, certain goals in life and business, that agent that gets new and they want to do, 20 deals a year. And is there one thing, aside from actually making the calls and anything, is there one thing that you would suggest that they do in order to be clear with what they're doing and all that stuff? Is it the planning? What is it?
I would say find somebody who you hold in high regard, who has demonstrated the ability to be successful in the arena that you're competing in, and ask that person to become your accountability partner in your journey, and spend as much time and bring that person inside the fold as much as you can. And if you choose the right person, that person is going to drag you to success. As long as you show up every day and put in the minimum required effort, if you pick the right person, I think that's probably the biggest thing you could do.
I love that. I love that, because I think that's really important. And the thing you said before about letting your family know what you're doing and what you have to do, so they ask you questions. Two other things. One is a question. One is a comment. Number one, how do I help you grow your business?
Well, you just did, man. You allow me to have a forum like this to grow. It aligns to my goal. All this helps me do what I love and become the best version of myself. By you doing this, Dave, we're helping other people. Hopefully you've done it 398 episodes. So you've already done everything that you can do to help me, man.
Well, man, I want to thank you so much for being on this broadcast. Just quickly, next week, we have Jeff Quinton coming, New Jersey's own Jeff Quinton coming on.
Another JQ. How about that?
Another JQ. I said that to my assistant the other day, another JQ. Well, Jeff Quinton is a CEO of his own group, the Quinton Group, and he's a results-driven kind of guy, and you're going to see that. We talk about coaching and mentoring and all kinds of other stuff, but that's going to be next week. And last but not least, another JQ, the hat. I know you got one before. This one's a little different than the other one.
I know.
And
look, I'm going to go from black and blue to all blue, baby. I'm going to go from black and blue to all blue.
Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. Stay on really quickly as we go off. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week and weekend. See you next week with Jeff Quinton. All right, we're there and we're going off. Thank you.